Deion needs the media in order to be Deion. He doesn't want the spotlight to move locations here. He doesn't want his limelight to dim. He's not the same guy when coverage goes away. But honestly, I'll say the media doesn't want him to go away either. Now, he's completely lost me on how he's blaming everyone but himself for the lack of steady improvement. But, and Chad, last year, have I not just changed my tone on all this? I mean, I really enjoyed what he was doing in the pressers, and now I just,
You've got new evidence to base a new conclusion on.
And he's changed. But here's where I give him credit. He knows how to keep himself in the headlines. Now, he's not putting Colorado's football program in the headlines every time, but he's putting the Sanders in the headlines. He's a polarizing, entertaining, entitled, arrogant, diva promo hype machine coach. And that's okay with me, at least for right now, because we're in this college football bubble where most of the coaches are boring, basic, scripted. They're PR pros. And media coverage, by the way, can many times be described in the same way. For instance, Heupel, while he's answering questions about it, going back to Oklahoma, it's a big matchup, but Bob Stoops is nowhere to be found. He's releasing a statement saying he doesn't want to cop. What? But here's Deion taking it personal, and at least he hypes the fight. And for whatever reason, Chad, he has decided that the year 2 fight is against the media. The primetime charm is of last September is long gone, and he knows about this next point, but he doesn't want everyone else to know this. He needs the media in order to be Coach Prime. He craves attention, wants to feel the love, he wants to shine the bright lights on his podium in Golgotha. He needs the media to push his narrative or to point blame when he feels like his players are being quote-unquote attacked. He needs CBS Denver to show up so he can dismiss a reporter. Without Paul Feinbaum speaking the truth, Deion can't give us his spin. Simply said, without the cameras and microphones, primetime isn't primetime. And I acknowledge that he's different. I welcome the aspect of who he is. No other coach is cool with playing the villain by pretending to be the victim. Again, in this college football media bubble where, for the most part, in most cases, the lens is focused on doing what's best for the program at large and what fans want to hear, which is primarily positive, unless you don't back up the talk or the contract. So I say the red carpet of 2023 is more like a shag carpet now, this go around, and it doesn't feel like Hollywood. Boulder is college football's Golgotha. He won't need his shades when the media room lights turn off, and he craves the need to wear those shades. He gets a boost of energy from the blinking red light on the cameras, and he wants the press conferences full. He turns the podium into his pulpit, and without the quote-unquote attacks from the college football media, he's left with Uncle Neely and the pregame show, THEE pregame show. Ratings are still good, by the way, but they're not great. They're far from great like last year. This isn't 2023 primetime, even though they have started the season in big primetime windows. They're still one of the more watched programs in the country right now. They've been featured in 3 big broadcast spots on ESPN, NBC, and CBS. They average 4.8 million viewers per game. Last year, though, the Colorado State matchup pulled 9 million. This year, 3.25 million on CBS. And that's the least watched Colorado game on broadcast television in the Deion Sanders era. So I'm sure he takes that personal too. And we're just 3 games into the season. This is going to be fascinating to watch play out, Chad, because we're just getting started. He's coming off of a win, and we know what the schedule is ahead. Toss-up games at best, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they go on a slide, there's no telling who's going to be blamed next. And there's only so many times that Desmond Howard can claim mental health as to why he can't be attacked.
It's well said, Hutton. And we all know the person that just has to have a war to fight at all times. We've all met this person.
A lot of players do that.
They've got to be in battle.
Yep.
They got to be in war mode. They got to be slighted. There's got to be someone that disrespected them.
Yes.
There's got to be something they're fighting for and
Chip
something
on the shoulder.
They're fighting against.
Yep.
Deion Sanders is one of those people, and the media is the perfect opponent for Deion at all times. That push-pull that goes on with the media, we joked yesterday about the Ed Warder.
Yeah.
Do you believe?
Do you believe?
Do you believe? After the win over TCU last year?
In what?
That's what Deion thrives on. That's his energy, right? Just the media is the biggest part of it right now that he's going after, but it could be another coach. It could be a player that said something. We know these competitors exist, and we know a lot of them, but it's just he's a man that needs a war to fight. And right now the war is with the media.
Yeah, and last year to start the season, it was do you believe? But throughout the season, it was more of he was telling the truth in post-game pressers. And now it's the opposite. Like, you're attacking my players.
There are some
just
people
don't see that
in peacetime they're the most uncomfortable and they're uneasy. And I think Deion's one of those people that likes to have someone to go against.
I think he's uneasy when the cameras aren't as massive in the media room, right?
He wants the coverage.
Yeah, he craves it. I mean, coaches do that, but this is to a totally different level. Urban Meyer, he says the rumors about him potentially returning to Florida, he says that ship has sailed. Chad, when I heard this, Urban Meyer potentially go back, I realized he only lost 15 games as head coach for the Gators. And they do 2 SEC championships, he got the national title. He left them in shambles. And he left and has created where they are right now.
Yeah.
And he would do it again. As soon as things didn't go a certain way, he's going to claim that he has health issues, and he's going back to media. I really enjoy him on Big Noon Kickoff. I think he's very insightful. But the way he's left Florida, when we saw what was on the horizon, I don't know why you would turn back to that.
And for Urban Meyer, who's accomplished everything in coaching, and he did a lot of good and bad. I'm also having a hard time not seeing the actor that portrays Urban Meyer when I think about him now after watching the Aaron Hernandez story. That's who I'm envisioning as I talk about Urban Meyer. For Urban Meyer to think that he's going to go be an interim coach for a bad Florida team. So there's 2 things here that could happen, right? Let's play out this hypothetical that Urban Meyer would be somewhat interested living in the area. Yeah, I'll go be the interim coach since I've got that experience, and I'll just run and orchestrate Billy Napier's staff, and he's got all the support staff and everything else. I'll run that. So one of 2 things happens here. One, they get hot, go on a little run, they beat Tennessee or beat someone else, and everyone in Gainesville, boy, you start to get that little tingly feeling. The hairs on your arms start to stand up, and you think, man, damn, 2006, 2008 national championships. What a hell of a time it was for Urban Meyer. You'll forget about the murders and the laptop stolen and the armed robberies and the shootings and the cover-ups and the heart palpitations and everything else. You're not going to remember that. All the memories are going to be flooding back, and it's going to be Tim Tebow praying on a football field and delivering the speech after losing to Ole Miss that they're not going to lose another game and there's going to be no one that plays harder in college football than me. That's what Florida fans are going to think about if Urban Meyer were to take this job and to actually start doing some things late in the season. Probably not a ton, but just a little bit. If he had a couple of big wins along the way, people would say, man, we should really give Urban Meyer a look and keep him there. The other outcome is Urban Meyer does this, the team continues to not be good, and then Florida fans are just left saying, yeah, even Urban Meyer couldn't fix his team. He can go back to television now. So then why would Urban Meyer want that? Let's look at it from his perspective. Oh, I'm going to go coach Billy Napier's program that does not look to be on solid ground with a bunch of players who aren't playing well. So I'm going to go take those L's now with his staff. And then Florida fans are going to say, all right, thanks a lot. Now go back to the television booth. And on the flip side, if you're not truly prepared to take the job full time, then you don't take the interim job.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a Bob Stoops situation going back to his alma mater. This would be Urban Meyer in an audition to get back into coaching at 60 years old. Now, I believe Urban Meyer when he says that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Recently, when asked about it, that he has a lot of friends there and he wants that program to do well. And there's a lot of people still there that he really likes and respects and yada, yada, yada. He's not going to take this interim job, though.
And I think it also shows.
I said Steve Spurrier.
Spurrier would be awesome.
Spurrier's the type that he really has no chance of staying on. He doesn't want it.
He's the ambassador.
But it would be hilarious to watch him on the sideline
awesome.
in a Gators
visor
again.
Yeah.
I mean, think of Steve Spurrier going back to Neyland Stadium if Billy Napier got fired
Think
as
about
the head
presser
coach.
going in.
It would be nonstop.
It's exactly what it would not be boring.
Nonstop comedy. It would be great. I'm rooting for that to happen.
That would be unbelievable. And if not, so I think the rumor of Urban Meyer. I mean, who knows what's really going on behind the scenes, right? But I think it also shows the lack of coaching depth right now. Like, where do you turn if you're Florida? Like, what's the ceiling?
John Gruden?
Well, but is that great?
No.
You know, like, what's the ceiling of?
It's Lane Kiffin. Like, that's the only
But we know how that's going to end.
That's the only name that I think he'll take the job. I really do.
Ole Miss is always matched, though. I'm fascinated to see that, too.
Yeah, I think this might be the one. I don't think he's gotten the jobs that he sought for one reason or another.
Well, they gave him a big raise when Auburn opened up.
Yeah.
That's when they went over $9 million per year, which is crazy.
I think Lane Kiffin's going to be – there are really good coaches out there that at Florida could really excel. I'll give you an example. Lane Kiffin, I think, would be an absolute grand slam. I think he would do terrific at Florida. They'd be a top 10 program. They'd have a swagger back like the Spurrier, Urban Meyer days. His teams usually have that little bit of cockiness and edge to them.
Lane Train
in Gainesville would be terrific.